every one of these shooters with these mysterious stories are always some bullet casing enthusiasts. Like, the same tactics they're using, Jimmy, right?
Hi, welcome back. We got special guests with us. Nick Cruse, citizen journalist, geopolitical analyst, co-founder of the Revolutionary Blackout Network. He's here back with us. Please welcome back to the show, Nick Cruse. Hey, Nick, how are you?
Hey, what's poppin', Jimmy? Always great to be here.
Well, what's happening is I saw your video. So Hotspot put out a video of you talking about Luigi Mangione, and it says he's not guilty. What the corporatist media is not telling you about the Luigi Mangione case. Let's listen.
Luigi Mangione is back in court today as his attorneys drop a complete bombshell, demanding that the court throw away obviously tamper with evidence. Luigi Mangione is accused of killing the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, but nothing about this story adds up. Remember Luigi Mangione's backpack, which very conveniently for the prosecution had the murder weapon in it and a manifesto where Luigi Mangione confessed his crimes? Yeah, the police illegally searched that bag without a warrant mysteriously after Luigi Mangione was arrested. That is apparently where the police found Luigi Mangione's manifesto, where he confessed to his crimes, even gave a motive, and was 100% written by the Fed. In his manifesto, Luigi Mangione apparently wrote to the Fed, "I will keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country." Who believes this stupid nonsense? If Luigi Mangione wanted to respect the time of the Feds, and he wanted the world to know his motive and why he did it, why would he plead not guilty in court? Why is he demanding that this manifesto be removed from evidence if he truly wrote this and he committed the crime? They would have you believe that after days of being on the run, Luigi Mangione kept his murder weapon? It's obvious to me that the police planted the murder weapon and wrote this manifesto in order to pin the murder of Brian Thompson on Luigi Mangione. And the question that the American people should be asking is why? It would be hilarious and actually justice if Luigi Mangione got off scot-free from this because the feds got sloppy. You had to have a room temperature IQ to believe the official narrative about Luigi Mangione at this point.
All right, so let's bring in Nick. Nick, that, you know, when you lay it out like that, it almost sounds like the FBI is fabricating a case against this guy.
They will never do that, Jimmy. You know, they will never do something like that.
I mean,
So this is like my third or fourth video about Luigi Mangione. And this is why I love Hotspot. Make sure you guys follow Hotspot on X because they let me cover whatever I want. We focus mostly on like non-mainstream news, anti-imperialist news, and whatever like ruling class don't want us to know. And I know you noticed, Jimmy, that when the Luigi Mangione case first dropped, the corporate media was all over it. Like it was nonstop coverage of Luigi Mangione. And then they saw public sentiment. And then they saw people like me questioning the narrative and realized that nothing they are telling us is making any sense on this story. And every single corporate media outlet dropped it. Like suddenly, out of nowhere. No one will mention it. No one will cover it. And they pretend that there's not a trial that is ongoing. And from the beginning, it was clear that what they was telling us about the story was complete nonsense. I think they should let Luigi Mangione go. And if Luigi Mangione kills another healthcare CEO, I guess he actually did it then, I guess. But nothing about the story actually makes any sense to me. And I broke it down that Hotspot video. There's so much stuff I couldn't actually cover in that video because we tend to try to keep our Hotspot videos nice and short. But he was found by like some random boomer at McDonald's, a complete state away. And Jimmy, do you guys know that because the state put a massive bounty on any information regarding Luigi Mangione, that the police was receiving so many tips about Luigi that they couldn't possibly keep up? They said so. They said we receiving so many tips. We have to filter through them because so many of them is not credible. But they listened to this tip from this random boomer who just said this guy looks like the shooter, even though he looks nothing like the original photo that was shown of the shooter. And then they take this guy's word at face value, drive all the way to McDonald's to arrest this guy without any probable cause. Didn't read the Miranda rights, and then they seized the bag, and I covered this in my video. They seized the bag where they find a murder weapon and a manifesto that will be a prosecutor's wet dream. Doesn't pass the smell test. And they use the same techniques. Jimmy, I know you've been covering like the Tyler Robinson shooting. You notice how with Luigi Mangione, they have bullet casings. He had the bullet casings, defend, oppose, deny.
Yeah.
The ruling class is so sloppy, they use the same technique, Jimmy.
The same
That's the ice shooter. And the Tyler Robinson, remember he had the bullet casing? Every one of these shooters with these mysterious stories are always some bullet casing enthusiast. Like the same tactics they're using, Jimmy, right?
It's kind of amazing that they use the exact same playbook with Luigi Mangione as they did with Tyler Robinson. And not only that, so Luigi Mangione he's carrying around a manifesto of him just admitting to the crime of shooting this guy and why he did it, and he's carrying it around. Well, why wouldn't he just turn himself in? Why did he then get in a car and drive hours away and go to, he was a couple days later, he's at some McDonald's. He's still carrying the manifesto and the gun. And now he's pleading not guilty. None of that stuff makes sense that he would do that. Just like Tyler Robinson immediately after the shooting decides to tell his trans girlfriend every detail about the shooting in a text. It doesn't make any sense that he would do that. It's like, well, I didn't tell you this before, but now I feel like I should confess to the whole thing in text that the cops are going to definitely find. Here you go. So yeah, and they both wrote on their bullets stuff like crazy stuff, right? And so he was. It's weird. To me, it's beyond sloppy, right? It's almost like they want you to know it.
And the corporate media committed massive fraud. And almost everyone who covered this should lose their job because people are supposed to be considered innocent to proven guilty. You guys notice how every single corporate media outlet repeated the fact that Luigi Mangione was guilty uncritically? They directly tampered with the trial. Because you want to know what video they did not show Luigi Mangione, Jimmy? They didn't show any clips of when he was originally arraigned and brought out to the public. And he screamed that this trial is an insult to the intelligence of the American people and their lived experience. And you notice, Jimmy, not a single corporate media outlet showed that story.
That's right.
So if Luigi Mangione had this message that he wanted to send to society with bullet casings, why would he say the whole case is an insult to the intelligence of the American people? Because it is. They grabbed this random guy because they needed to find someone to pin the murder of Brian Thompson on. Now, there's a lot of speculation on why they did this. You guys know that United Healthcare has a massive Medicare fraud suit that the board of directors is involved in. And we've seen the game plan with the modus operandi of the capitalist class. They're gangsters. They play for keeps, Jimmy. This CEO who's top of the United Healthcare, he definitely probably had some business dealings, some people in upper management he pissed off. So they had this guy who committed this great shooting and exit strategy. So if you fleeing the scene like this, why? Like, once again, it made no sense. Like, if you are doing this murder, you flee the scene, get away with it. Why will you keep the murder weapon and manifesto? Why will you deny it later? Nothing about this story that they're telling us make any sense. I think they are going to execute this innocent man, Luigi Mangione, also because they couldn't let this murder go unsolved, because that would send a very chilling message to the American populace of this massive CEO billionaire guy being murdered and the killer not being found. So I think they're willing to sacrifice Luigi just to send a message to the populace that you won't get away with this. So there's a lot of different speculation on why they're doing this, Jimmy. And that's what I'm talking about now. But I think none of it makes sense at all.
Well, isn't it interesting that Luigi Mangione and Tyler Robinson both were A+ students, and they do the two dumbest things that you could ever do after murdering someone? Isn't that like he carries the murder weapon with him and his manifesto of confessing to it, and then immediately after the killing, Tyler Robinson texts his confession basically to his trans girlfriend. The two of the dumbest things you could possibly, and both of them are pleading not guilty, by the way. And if that kid turned himself in, why is he pleading not guilty, Tyler Robinson? So, but these are two really bad FBI bungle. I don't know if they're bungling. It's almost like they're bungling it on purpose to see how much we'll believe. Kind of like 9/11 and Building 7. Yeah. It's like, let's see if they'll believe this, that a building fell into its own footprint that wasn't even hit by a plane. You know, it seems like something like that. Let's see what we could get away with.
Yeah, they're gangsters. The same way with Donald Trump issuing the pardon of the Honduras drug lord president. It's obviously a sham. Like it's showing everyone that they can be openly hypocritical, but there's nothing you can do about it. Like they can plant evidence on you, and they can find you guilty of a crime that they committed, and they're just showing the American populace how powerless they are. It's actually a great power flex in a way. But yeah, Luigi, like you mentioned before, this guy who they want us to believe held stakeouts. Like he had this highly planned assassination plot against Brian Thompson, extremely well planned, well organized, had an exit strategy. But this guy got sloppy because he was found in a random McDonald's. And that's another trend that they use, Jimmy, that all these shooters, they always found eating at some fast food restaurant because the American people, they just can't help themselves. They love to eat a burger. So if you're the most wanted man in America, like Luigi Mangione, why will you be found at a random McDonald's where you can be easily identified? Wouldn't you go underground for a few months? I'm not a crime expert, but like, why would you be so public with all the information and all the evidence that the prosecutors want on you? Once again, it makes no sense, and it should infuriate the American people that they tell us these kind of stories and expect us to believe it. There's nothing morally wrong with taking a story that the establishment tells you, taking a story that the government tells you, and telling them that they're full of shit. There's nothing morally wrong with that, right?
So here is how PBS reported it. It says Luigi Mangione watched stoically in court Monday as prosecutors played surveillance video showing the killing of United Health CEO Brian Thompson on a New York City sidewalk last year, and Mangione's arrest 5 days later, carrying the murder weapon and his manifesto 5 days later at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania. The videos, including footage from the restaurants previously unseen by the press or the public, kicked off a hearing on Mangione's fight to bar evidence from his state murder trial, including the gun prosecutors say matches the one used in the December 4th attack. Mangione, 27, pressed his fingers to his lips and thumb to his chin as he watched footage of two police officers approaching him as he ate breakfast at the McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, about 230 miles west of Manhattan. So, just like you said, they were overwhelmed with tips, the FBI. They couldn't, but somehow this tip they acted on, some guy from a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, says, I'm pretty sure this might be the guy, and they immediately dispatch people. So that also is suspect. He gripped a pen in his right hand, making his at fist high as prosecutors played a 911 call from a McDonald's manager relaying concerns from customers that Mangione looked like the suspect in the Thompson's killing. The manager said she searched online for photos of the suspect, and that as Mangione sat in the restaurant, she could only see his eyebrows because he was wearing a beanie and a medical face mask. And the FBI acted on this. I can't really see he's got a face mask on, but I see his eyebrows. Chris Keene has eyebrows that look like that. Chris Keene, the guy who fills in for me here sometimes. Among the evidence Mangione's defense team wants excluded are the 9mm handgun and a notebook in which prosecutors say he described his intent to whack a health insurance executive. Both were found in the backpack Mangione had with him when he was arrested. Isn't that convenient? How convenient? After getting state terrorism charges thrown out in September, Mangione's lawyers are zeroing in on what they say was unconstitutional police conduct that threatens his right to a fair trial. They contend that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office should be prevented from showing the gun, notebook, and other items to jurors because police didn't have a warrant to search the backpack. They also want to suppress some of Mangione's statements to the police, such as when he allegedly gave his name as Mark Rosario because officers started asking him questions before telling him he had the right to remain silent. Prosecutors say Mangione gave the same name when he checked into a Manhattan hostel days before the killing. Eliminating the gun and notebook would be critical wins for the Mangione's defense and a major setback for prosecutors, depriving them of possible murder weapon and evidence that say points to motive. Prosecutors have quoted extensively from Mangione's writings and court filings, including his praise for the late Theodore Kaczynski, the convicted murderer known as the Unabomber. Among other things, prosecutors say Mangione mused in his diary about rebelling against the deadly greed-fueled health insurance cartel and wrote that killing an industry executive conveys a greedy bastard that had it coming. He added, and I hope they never catch my close personal friend Tyler Robinson, who plans to kill Charlie Kirk with a .30-06 rifle from a Utah Valley University rooftop next September. An officer searching the backpack found with Mangione was heard in body camera footage saying she was checking to make sure there wasn't a bomb in the bag. Because as a cop, you're always trained that whenever you suspect a bag may contain a bomb, the first thing you do is not call the bomb squad, but start rooting around in the bag. Did she also sniff it for evidence like they did in Syria? Yes, that sounds like, there's something. I think there's a chemical weapon there. Let me smell that. Oh, yeah, there's definitely some. Anyway, his lawyers argue that was an excuse designed to cover up an illegal warrantless search for his backpack. A few dozen Mangione supporters watched the hearing from the back of the courtroom. One wore a green T-shirt that said, "Without a warrant, it's not a search, it's a violation." The state charges carry the possibility of life in prison. Mangione's lawyers wanted bar evidence from both cases, but there's blah, 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 blah. Well, the cops went through a lot of trouble to plant that evidence, and now you just want them to throw it out? Really? Wow, I don't think so. So federal prosecutors fighting the defense's push to exclude the gun, notebook, and other evidence from their case have said in court filings that police were justified in searching the backpack to make sure there were no dangerous items and that the statements to officers were voluntary and they were made before he was under arrest. So power to the people. There we are. Proud Socialist says the cops didn't read Luigi Mangione his Miranda rights until after illegally searching and detaining him. This means evidence collected at the Pennsylvania McDonald's is inadmissible in court and should be thrown out. The cops' careless and arrogant behavior is going to free Luigi. And one day New York will have Luigi Mangione Square, as Russell Dobler says after this. United Healthcare to drop Medicare Advantage plans for 600,000 people. That was from August 6th.
Crazy.
So anyway, yeah, I bet there will be a Luigi Mangione Square. I think it's my gut is that somehow, just like with this killing of the, just like when they blew up the Tesla truck in front of the Trump Hotel in Vegas, and that was a military guy, just like the guy who just killed the two National Guard people in D.C. was trained by the CIA. I think you're going to find that, just like that Ryan Routh was also working with the State Department, who have allegedly tried to kill Donald Trump at his golf course. So we're going to find out that all these people were somehow working in conjunction with the quote-unquote intelligence community. Luigi Mangione, there's something else here. They just didn't just pick him out of a hat. So I don't know if they were MK Ultraing him or mind controlling him, as we know that, of course, that they don't do that anymore. They would never do that anymore. The CIA, which gave unsuspecting citizens, they gave them unsuspecting citizens acid, LSD, just to see what happened, to see if they could control their minds. I'm sure they stopped doing crazy stuff like that. So yeah, I think there's more to this. And it's obvious that the FBI has concocted a story, as you pointed out, and not only this story, but the Ryan Routh story, but the story in Butler, Pennsylvania, the story of the Tesla on fire at the Trump hotel. These are all way too suspicious. None of them make sense. And I think it's to try to get a ramping up of the police. What part of it is certainly to get a ramping up of the police state and expand the surveillance state, which is Trump is doing. He's the perfect guy to do it. Just like Barack Obama was the perfect guy to give to kick people out of their homes and make the banks never miss a bonus payment, right? Because he was a black guy who you thought was going to be on the side of the workers. No, he was a black guy who was on the side of the bankers and the health insurance companies and big pharma. So because his natural base, Barack Obama's base, was against the banks and big pharma, so they got to bring in a guy to quiet them. Trump's base is against the national surveillance state, and so they bring in Trump, and he quiets them. They go along with what he's doing, and they're also against regime change wars, and he's doing one in Venezuela at the behest of Israel and the oil cartels. But anyway. There's much more to this, and if you believe, I think we can both agree on this, Nick. If you believe what the corporate news is telling you, you're a chump, right?
Yeah, I think the ruling class is emboldened right now, like with all these psyops, because they know that the ruling class corporate media will never call them out on it.
That's right.
They know that the CIA has weaponized the term conspiracy theory, so it's like shames the populace for even asking questions. That's why they are doing the Charlie Kirk executions. That's why they are willing to murder a CEO of United Healthcare. That's why you see them killing fishermen in Venezuela. What's international law after you allowed Israel to bomb a few hospitals or so?
Right.
We have the ruling class as a complete rebellion against the concept of social dignity, international law, and law and order in general. You saw that Donald Trump, he pardoned Henry Seller, the corrupt Democrat, earlier.
Yeah.
They are a completely lawless capitalist class that we live into. That's why they can do these heists. What are we gonna do about it? Because in a sane society, this entire case should be thrown out because we already explained why the manifesto is nonsense. So if you guys planted this manifesto in the bag, the entire case should be done. It should be completely thrown out and completely illegitimate. If just one of these theories that we have, Jimmy, it's true. It's just one of them. It's true. Whether they planted the murder weapon, whether they planted the manifesto, that means the entire case is null and void. But it doesn't matter because you know what, Jimmy? They're about to murder this guy. They recommended the death penalty for Luigi Mangione. Bam. We don't even apply the death penalty to pedophiles and rapists. You had Donald Trump flying Israeli pedophiles out. So pedophiles and rapists, they get slap on the head 20 years or so. Luigi Mangione, death penalty. It seems like they want to silence them forever, right?
Yeah.
Just something to think about.
I mean, this is right. This is on the heels of Trump just pardoning one of the biggest narco traffickers in the entire hemisphere, the former president of Honduras, as he claims to be fighting a narco trafficking ring out of Venezuela. So none of it makes sense. Of course, it's no matter who you vote for, you get John McCain, and we're not going to be able to vote our way out of this, right? I mean, that's what it's. I've said it before, but I really believe it now. There's really no way to vote our way out, especially after what you saw what Mondami did recently, right?
Yeah, I'm covering that tonight. That's why I wish I could say longer, but I have a show I'm going to do.
Okay.
I'm covering, there's like nearly 100 leftist organizations calling out Zohran Mamdani because he sold out faster than AOC. AOC and Bernie gave the playbook, and Zohran Mamdani sold out in record time. So you have many organizations who calling him out for that. So I'm glad to see people holding him accountable.
Is the
completely shameless.
Is the DSA calling him out?
Few chapters of DSA that trying to do damage control because you guys know DSA as an organization voted to keep Hakeem Jeffries. That's why I call them Hakeem Jeffries Democrats at this point. They're not serious socialists, not rebels. They as an organization voted to keep Hakeem Jeffries in leadership while Gaza is still being slaughtered by Israel.
I know.
These social democrats, they want to put Gaza behind them, Jimmy. They want nothing more than forget Gaza, organize with Zionists. That was Zohran Mamdani's doing. And for what? They selling out Palestinians. Zohran Mamdani smeared Nicolas Maduro as Donald Trump is about to wage a war against Venezuela. He smeared Cuba as Donald Trump is ramping up sanctions against them. And for what? Free buses? That's all it took? Free buses is all it took for you guys to sell out the Palestinians. While there is still a genocide going on in Gaza, the ceasefire was nonsense. We covered this in Hotspot as well. It was always nonsense. But the progressives are pretending it's not. And that's the devil's bargain that I despise. The idea you're going to sell out the global south because you want a bigger cut of the imperial pie. the promise that you getting small nonsense. I find it morally reprehensible. It's not small disagree. You disagree with Zoran on so many small things. No, it's a big disagreement to morally sell out the global working class for rent freeze. That's it. That's all it took.
Hey, where was Zoran Mondavi when we were doing forced to vote, trying to get Medicare for all for everybody in the United States? That's something that the Democratic, the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, it was in their own handbook, and they had to disavow their own handbook when it turned out that it could actually happen. So they like to talk about stuff, but when it could actually, just like Democrats like to talk about Medicare for all when they're not in power. So as soon as they're not in power, Bernie Sanders starts talking about it again. But as soon as the Democrats are in power, they never make a peep about it. And the same thing with the Democratic Socialists of America. As soon as their plan from their own handbook, which I got from their own handbook, to force a vote for Medicare for all on the floor of the House, when I tried to implement that, they turned on me and protected politicians. Yeah. And that's because the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, are completely infiltrated by the CIA and the FBI, and they're a garbage organization, and they're fake and they're phony. I'm not talking about the members. I'm talking about the leadership of the DSA. I think a lot of people join that with the right intentions and think they're going to do good work, and then they don't realize that they're actually working for the CIA, which is what the Democratic Socialists of America are doing. They're working for the CIA. Anyway, Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, that's such a great point. They would form these coalitions with Zionists, but they will never work with us. The reason why they didn't support the March for Medicare for All, the rally against the war machine rally, was because they're like, oh, don't you know that there are right-wing elements there? Don't you know that Jimmy Dore at the Medicare for All rally? That's why we can't show support for them. Meanwhile, they're 100% okay with organizing with Jessica Tisch.
Yeah,
have no problem organizing with Hakeem Jeffries. They spared us for years, Jimmy, as being a part of some sort of red-brown alliance. They're the red-brown alliance. The alliance between progressives and Zionists and the Democratic Party to get a rent freeze. That's the definition of what a red-brown alliance. But to be clear, it's more like a blue-brown alliance.
Yeah.
But that's what they do. They want to be caught dead at an RBM mutual aid event. I was organizing with Fred Hampton Jr., the chairman himself, giving away clothes, food. We hold these kind of programs. Savvy does a great job with Boston Mutual Aid. My friend James Fonteray, he has a mutual aid organization in Orlando. Jimmy, they never lift a finger to help RBM Mutual Aid. Jimmy had us on to promote our mutual aid events. He helped us out on that. But the DSA will never be caught organizing with you. Never will be caught organizing something that you're working on. But if it's a Democratic Party event like the No Kings rally, they'll be quick to show up to one of those, Jimmy. Yeah. They are orbiters of the Democratic Party, and they actually play a very harmful role to working class movements. That's why I call them out all the time, which is why they're not too fond of me.
Yeah. They came at me over me pushing something that they had in their own handbook, and that's when I knew they were phonies. Yeah. Anyway, Nick Cruse.
And they came after me for talking to you. Just for talking to you, Jimmy.
Really?
Yeah, you don't know, man. They're like, how dare you do this to us, Nick, by talking to Jimmy Dore? Like the same way I talk to anyone. Like Jake Shields had me on this podcast. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna sell my radical politics to his audience. Cancel for that. Like they are gatekeepers to the left. They're now smearing Shama Sawant, who is running as an independent against a genocidal Zionist Democrat, Adam Smith, and they refuse to support Shama Sawant against a Zionist because Shama Sawant said mean things about AOC. That shows how unserious they are. They want to back a Zionist and not support a progressive just because Shama hurt AOC's feelings. That's how childish and how they're just gatekeepers. They're bad faith. I can write a whole book about it, Jimmy. They're so bad faith, man.
Yeah, they're the opposite of what they appear to be, some kind of rebel organization. They're there to make sure that all the revolutionary energy on the left gets funneled back into a pro-war, anti-worker party. That's what the DSA is all about. And if you don't know that by now, you're a chump or you're under 18 years old. That's very well said. That's it. Okay. All right, Nick.
Yeah, they exist. I said it 1,000 times before. The DSA exists to shift what it means to be a socialist to the right.
That's exactly right.
That's why they're propped up. That's why you will see all the DSA clowns like Emma and on them on CNN. They so comfortable around DSA people. They invited on corporate media all the time. I'm blacklisted from corporate media. Why do you guys think that is? They love the dumb, non-intellectual left-wing movements. Like the DSA, that's why they propped up. That's why the establishment likes working with them. But you guys knock and rant about DSA all day.
I know.
They are so nefarious.
I know. This was supposed to be about Luigi Mangione, but somehow when you get me talking about the horrible DSA, I can't shut up. All right. Everybody check out the Revolutionary Blackout Network on YouTube. Check out Hot Topics. What's it called?
Hotspot. Make sure you guys follow Hotspot. It's Hotspot on X. Also going live on my channel, Nick Cruse. I have the homie Rathbone. He joined me tonight. We're gonna talk about the scourge of Jewish supremacy in the United States, which is one of the reasons why I'm banned on corporate media as well. Because we had these kind of uncomfortable conversations. So I will be going live with Rathbone on my channel, Nick Cruse, and Revolutionary Blackout. And I post maybe around 4 to 5 videos a week on Hotspot. We cover Nico House. He's running this project. It's a great anti-imperialist news outlet. We cover anti-imperialist topics, anti-establishment topics. So make sure you guys follow us on there. Always great to join you, Jimmy.
Okay, great to talk to you. Tell Nico hello. Come see me on tour in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, Waikiki, Hawaii, and the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.